So let's kick things off then. So hi guys, welcome to the webinar, E-commerce and the changing landscape of 2021. This will be a fully recorded webinar, so we'll be following up with everything to you. So please feel free to know that in knowledge. What a year 2020 has been. It's been a year of roller coasters of ups and downs, and throughout the e-commerce space, there's been an awful lot of movement with a 45% growth in e-commerce. It's a good question as to whether it's here to stay or whether it was only momentarily, but that's what we're here to investigate. So looking back at 2020 and looking forward into 2021, we're joined by four pillars of the e-commerce space. We've got Mark from huboo, we've got Christoph from hellotax, we've got Timur from Osome, and we've got Synergies from Incorpore. What we're looking to achieve is to build a balanced and nuanced argument as to what the future of e-commerce is in 2021, and to really provide some insights and takeaways for you, ultimately the sellers. So we'll be holding a Q&A throughout, so if you've got any questions, then please feel free to post them and I'll try and include them in the conversation, but if not, we can answer them at the end. So without further ado, it would be good if everyone could introduce himself briefly. To start with Mark, it'd be good if you could give us a couple of words about huboo and what you guys are doing at the moment, and we can go from there.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Elwood. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer for huboo Technologies. huboo Technologies are quite a young company. We ran for a couple of years, and we're a specialist B2C e-commerce fulfillment company. We have 4 facilities based in Bristol in the southwest of England. We're soon to open up in Holland. And as we'll describe as we go through this webinar, there's been lots of things happening in 2020, to say the least. So interesting conversations, to say the least. Thank you.
And Christoph?
Yeah, I'm Christoph Hara, Head of Operations at hellotax. hellotax is a company that has several years in experience in registering and providing services for EU and non-EU sellers in VAT matters, mostly registrations and filings, but also all other services like communication with the tax office or anything that is involved or is requested by our clients. Yeah, that's me. Thanks.
And Synergies?
Hello, good evening from Tallinn, Estonia. So I'm from Incorpore. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer. I joined quite recently, in the end of last year, but we are in fact already a decade old, having provided traditional corporate services. So everything from legal, accounting, and other consultation services. And we are now rebuilding our business model. So that's what we're currently doing. We're aiming towards offering automated toolkits for specialized fields, such as e-commerce. And we are also implementing and designing our sustainability strategy right now. So this is something I hope to draw some attention to today as well.
Cool. And Timur?
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Timur. I'm one of the accountants here at Osome UK. Now Osome is working towards the automation of the whole e-commerce bookkeeping and accounting. And so what we're trying to achieve and achieved is connecting automatically to all of your selling platforms and bringing the information to your books with hassle-free and mainly automation of it, while also providing consultations and tax and account services throughout your whole journey of the finances on your e-commerce.
Cool, perfect. That was really good overview, guys. So as mentioned, 2020 was an absolutely crazy year, and we probably won't ever see anything like it again, to be honest, in the e-commerce space. Being a good moment to reflect, now we're over the first quarter of 2021. It would be good just to understand how Brexit, COVID affected your business personally, as well as your clients. So yeah, it'd be good to kick off with Christoph and see what the situation was at hellotax and the implications. I'm sure there's probably quite a few.
Well, the Brexit obviously affected our UK customers as the first ones, but not only, because the impact of Brexit is visible in all the services and all the performance of the tax offices in UK. There were some delays as well in the EU because of many question marks that the local tax officers had, how to deal with certain topics. We had the IORI registrations ongoing that could not proceed because it was not clear whenever UK is going to be a really non-EU country. Currently, I would say Brexit is mostly affecting everything that is going on in the UK, rather than actually, yeah. So any registration, any ongoing conversations, but I think any UK company actually experience the same things. They cannot get in touch with their officers. They cannot get replies. And the same thing is bothering us and our customers currently. That I would say that is the biggest hit that we got from Brexit.
Yeah. So it's been a pretty busy time for you guys, I imagine.
Yeah, it's something that is definitely not easy to handle, because from client perspective, you are waiting on a number, you are waiting to start your business, you are waiting on reply to the tax office. So there is a lot of ongoing communication, customers asking how long will it take, and you are trying to reach the officer and you don't know because they are not picking up the phone, and whatever, how many times you try, you have the same message. We are too busy to pick up your call now. So yeah, it's really hard to get past it, but I hope this is going to change in a couple of months once the things settle down a bit, and the tax office adapts their processes to the new reality.
Yeah, and I guess you're there to help the sellers through that process and to give them a bit of guidance through that process as well. Mark, I know you've seen quite a lot of growth on your side at huboo. You're looking to expand the office and the warehouse. It'd be good to see how COVID affected you, or how the uptake in e-commerce affected you as well.
Sure. We were probably a little bit different than most businesses during COVID. So when it kicked in at sort of March time last year, we were classed as key workers because we were distributing medical supplies amongst other products. So most of our warehouse were operational throughout the whole of the COVID period last year. And obviously we saw, a huge increase in certain COVID related products. So of course we had the hand sanitizers, the face masks, and what also surprised us was the non-COVID related products, non-medical products, but arts and crafts, toys, games, and all these type of things that people used when they were stuck indoors for months on end. To give you an idea of growth during that period, so some of the office staff worked from home, the operations staff continued to work through COVID. And I myself worked from home for 3 months, and I returned back in the end of June to the warehouse, to the office facility, after working from home for 3 months. And we had a 34,000 square foot facility, which was empty when I left. And when I returned 3 months later, it was full of product. So that gives you an idea of 34,000 square foot warehouse filled within 3 months of new clients. And it wasn't just new clients, also it was existing clients. So, clients that were doing, 50, 60 orders a day were all of a sudden doing sort of 400 or 500 orders a day. So, it had a huge impact for the right product. In addition to that, obviously, we had the build-up of Brexit, and that was one hell of a show last year, where everybody was waiting for the Brexit decision, and I think that it kept getting pushed back and pushed back. I think that, and it got pushed back right back until December, as we know. I think the key with the Brexit, or the perception with Brexit, certainly in the UK and people we're speaking to, was that if we achieved a deal, then there would be absolutely fine and everything will be hunky-dory, and we would just sail into January and there'd be no problems. I think we fell maybe a little bit into that pool as well, is that, let's get a deal and Boris will stamp out a deal and everything will be fine. Well, he did stamp out a deal, and we had a deal just before the Christmas. And then when January came, it wasn't fine at all. There was lots of implications to even a deal with Brexit. And January was a very challenging month for us. So, with the carriers, the blockades, the delays. So January was a very, very tough month for ourselves, for our clients, in terms of shipping product aboard. Thankfully, we're in a better place. I think there was a total misunderstanding of some of the requirements from our clients as well, in terms of HS codes and classifications, country of origin, and all the sort of data that was required. We had clients putting wrong codes on the wrong products, and it was getting checked and obviously getting stopped at customs, which caused horrendous delays. But we're in a much better place. I think carriers are in a much better place, and we've got a brighter future ahead of us. But January was tough, to say the least. Yeah.
No doubt, it was a bit crazy for you. No doubt. And And so over in Estonia, have you seen a large push towards people setting up companies over there in order to get around Brexit? What's it been like on your side? It's quite an interesting case.
Definitely. EU as a jurisdiction obviously became very popular after Brexit, particularly with the UK market. We were prepared for that. We are right now actually working with several UK companies and service providers to help incorporate or establish subsidiaries within the EU. So for us, yes, of course, it has resulted in growth. But I think that we have kind of taken a mission here as well for public knowledge and to really publicly share that information, what could help those people, and to be also public in our service provision. Because right now I think that the confusion might be the thing that instills most of the fear and most of the myths. So we feel definitely a mission there and definitely some growth. It is too early to say, I feel. We are only in March right now. But I think that if you take into account the e-commerce opportunities, Brexit, and everything that EU is doing right now to make it simpler to operate e-commerce within the Union, I think that there is a huge growth opportunity here. COVID in itself, I think, draws for this need for remote services for businesses, for maintaining, and this is no longer a luxury, or this is no longer a choice. People must use e-commerce. People have to manage their companies from abroad or simply remotely. So I think that definitely it has allowed us for more growth. But on the other hand, I think which is maybe not talked about a lot is it's changing the way that business is done as a whole. There is a lot more attention towards sustainability, and not sustainability only in the ecological sense, but also how do we treat our employees? I mean, now we have to see them at their homes. We have to take into account their families. So it has become a lot more sustainable, I believe, in that sense as well. And this is what we try to do in our consultation work as well, to kind of take into account the business as a whole, as opposed to merely talking about supply chains and siloed services.
Yeah, cool. So I guess we've got a unique basis of people here who might be able to help us explain how people can continue to trade successfully with the EU in a post-Brexit world, and trade especially with COVID in place as well. Tamura, it'd be good to hear your opinion here from Osome's perspective. How can a business continue to operate as smoothly as it has done up until this point in 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously Brexit, from 1st of January, it's completely changing the whole dynamic on how we used to do things between UK and EU, and not a part of single market anymore. Not freely as just posting the goods to your EU customers anymore. So you have to be considerate of many things. And as Mark said, the first month, January, was a complete roller coaster. I think I read the news where it said almost 30% of the goods sent to EU were returned because the import of goods were declared as the end consumers. So imagine how big that could be. And UK companies actually decided, it would be worth burning them rather than just getting them back, because getting them back again was a huge cost to the companies in UK. So the best thing and the first step is to identify and understand who you want this new change to be impacted on. So the first option is your end consumer. So if you want your end consumer to be the one who will pay the import VAT and declare the customs, then all you're doing is again arranging the delivery and sending it over. But what will happen is that your end consumer will get a knock on the door asking them to fill out extra forms and pay that extra import VAT. Again, not the best service that you can provide. And as I've said, there are examples that did not work out well. So the next best option is to register yourself in one country in Europe, which could be Germany, France, or where the distance selling threshold is to other countries is not that big, and you don't need a fiscal representation. So mainly places like Germany, register yourself for that there, send your goods in bulk there, and then do the fulfillment of your other European customers through that fulfillment center. So in essence, what you need is a fulfillment center in UK for UK customers and a fulfillment in Europe for your European customers. There's a third option, which again is not the most popular, which is to get involved with fulfillment companies or DHL, for courier companies, and they charge you an extra money to do this import VAT and customs declaration for you. But that just means that your profit margin will decrease a lot. So those are the three main options which can help you continue. For me, the second option is still the best because it covers everything, all of your paperwork, and anything that you pay on import VAT, you can always claim back when you do the VAT calculation on your European country.
Okay, interesting. And Mark, from the logistics point of view, do you have anything to add to that? It's obviously some options
I mean,
there.
it's spot on in the fact that when we commenced in January, we offered only the first scenario there described was the DDU, the delivered duties unpaid, and the backlash from that was pretty horrendous. I've been told the story about one of our sellers who was selling books to a buyer in Holland, and they ended up in a post office in Holland, and the postmaster was trying to claim duties and taxes, even though they're zero-rated books as well, because it just didn't understand the process and was like, actually, no, I shouldn't be charging duties and tax. Just had this shipment and thought, well, actually, I should be charging something, and came up with a percentage. And when we dug deeper with the carrier said, well, that shouldn't be happening. And we actually contacted this postal service and then said, actually, no, that shouldn't happen. That's a mistake. So we had lots of horror stories like that. Then we introduced the DDP service sort of towards the end of January. And what we found is that, the uptake is great. So that's delivered duties paid service. So it takes away that element of calculating the duties and the taxes from the seller. There is an administration fee. So yes, it does eat into your margins. So there's a fee there for them to do that administration, but it takes away the headache. The other alternative is obviously, as mentioned, is to have your product in the mainland Europe as well. So we had always had plans to go live in Holland in the new year, and we've accelerated those. So we've got the facility now, and we accelerated those because the requests that we've had from all of our sellers, we've got over 800 accounts at huboo for that, having a warehouse in the mainland is something that we've accelerated. So we're there in the mainland, we'll be up and running. So we have both options then. So you can either split your product and keep some in the UK and put some into a European facility, or you can use a DDP service, which is fine. It will relieve the headache, but there will be an administration fee. So, but by obviously having your product in the mainland, there is sometimes a reduction in transit costs, and there's certainly a quicker transit time. So rather than the 3 to 5 days to mainland Europe, it's 1 to 2 days. So which helps the sellers. They can compete in the local marketing because they haven't got those huge costs, and they're getting them in a timely fashion as well. So that's the key benefits that we picked up in the last couple of months to continue successfully trading anyway.
Okay. And Christoph, on the tax side of things, are there implications that people should be aware of that haven't been covered, or have you got anything additional to add to the options that have been presented there?
From COVID perspective, you mean, like from tax perspective, the COVID, if it changed?
Yeah, so the tax implications of how that would be structured.
All right, for that setup that you were talking about. Yeah, all right. Well, of course, there are some implications in regards of, like what Mark said, that there are some administrative fees that they have to handle. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, your company is UK based as well, right? So in the Netherlands?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. In the Netherlands, you have someone that is doing your imports for you. You have some.
Yes, we will.
Some company there, a custom agent, right?
Yeah, correct.
And that's one of the biggest barriers that the UK companies face currently. Mostly the ones that are deciding, for example, for Germany, which is the most common direction that you would like to move of your stock. The number of requests that currently custom agents in Germany face is just overwhelming. And my own search for one of the customers lead us to the conclusion that we should look in another country, actually closer to me. So I looked for a custom agent, and he was also looking for warehousing. So I found him a 3PL company that is also providing custom agents services in Poland. Because every email I sent to the German custom agent just bounced back saying, "I'm sorry, but we are not capable of taking any more clients. Please reach out to us later on." But that's obviously not an answer that you can pass to the customer. That is the biggest, let's say, the biggest barrier that you have to face when you like to have the stock in a country, in EU, as a UK company currently, which obviously a bit makes no sense because the fiscal representation requirements, they were taken away, so the UK companies don't have to have a fiscal representative in Poland or in France like other non-EUs do. But still the custom part stayed not changed, not regulated in the same manner, which is, from my perspective, an overseeing, let's say, that could have been handled better by both parties, I think. That is the biggest thing. But definitely, all the customers that we have that are UK based are looking for a place to store, because the changes that are coming in from July will anyway change the way that UK companies are proceeding with any sale they do in Europe. So the fact that they will adapt now sooner to the new reality will just help them to be more competitive.
Yeah, so find a partner who can help in somewhere like the Netherlands, somewhere like France, maybe outside of Germany because of the busyness, or find a partner like Mark who can help and already has that partner solution in place for you. I guess there's obviously the opportunity to potentially actually go into Europe as well. So Saret, what benefit would incorporating actually in Europe have for a UK seller in this example?
So this is what we are recommending. Either you wish to establish your company within the EU or you wish to establish a subsidiary. There are actually quite a lot of benefits. One of those, or one of the main ones, is the advantage that is now about to launch. So starting from April, it is possible to start applying for the one-stop shop offerings from the EU, so IOSS or OSS, which means pretty much in layman's terms that it doesn't really matter where your customers are. You can do business within the entire EU very simply. Because if your target group is mainly in the EU, then as there have been a lot of examples here by the previous speakers on how complex it is. So just to take advantage of the EU offerings, I think is the first thing to consider. But the second thing is that, for example, by incorporating in Estonia, so our jurisdiction, this also means that you have a lot of remote abilities that you would not get in other jurisdictions, and also obviously for managing your business from the UK while doing your real business within the EU. This just simplifies things a lot. And the third thing is, and I absolutely agree here with Christoph, I think that it's important to have an on-the-ground partner, so somebody who could actually walk you through all of those intricacies, because let's be honest, let's face that the situation is not right now etched in stone. Everything is changing. I think that companies have to be rather dynamic right now. So it makes a lot of sense to have real partners from where you are doing the business from.
Some really interesting different takes there and some different options for the sellers then moving forward. Is there a future in FBA, Mark, or is it just FBM from now on into Europe? What's your take on that?
Well, since they scrapped the pan-European network, obviously being a fulfillment house, that's beneficial to us. And have we seen an increase in inquiries? We probably have across Europe to add, on top of Brexit and all the other inquiries for mainland Europe. So there's certainly some strength in that. And for us, FBM is a service that we offer in terms of the choices. So what that gives the clients is a choice of carriers. So we have a portfolio of carriers, so they can go from super economy and super low cost to super express and next day and dedicated time slots. So I think the choice is wide from the FBM opportunity for clients. But it also depends on what marketplaces, obviously, those clients, those sellers are keen on. So, you know, we have sellers that are just focused on Amazon, or we got sellers who are keen to open new doors. For me personally, and what we instruct our clients to do is to open every door to new marketplaces. There's a whole world out there, and the EU is a huge marketplace, and don't close the door on it. You know, we've had sellers that say, well, okay, this is a real headache. This is back in January. This is a real headache. Do you know what? I'll just stop selling in the EU and just, no, it's a big old marketplace. Likewise with, you know, global marketplaces as well, that, you know, tap into those, get the right advice, and, you know, the world's your oyster. It really is, for a little effort. So setting up takes a bit of time, a bit of effort. Once you've done that, then there's really massive scope to get your products globally, not just in the UK. Yeah,
for sure. And I think when you look at, like you say, all the different marketplaces, when you look at the Cdiscount, Bowl, the Real, Germany, it's crazy how much there is out there. And at the moment, it seems as though people are maybe turning their back on the market. But Timur, what's your opinion there? You obviously see it from the accounting perspective, and you have quite hands-on experience with the client. Has there been a very negative attitude towards trading with Europe on your side when you're working with your clients? What's it been like for you?
It has been a mix, to be honest. I think it depends on the size and the nature of a business for each client. So if it's someone who has just recently started on an e-commerce as a side hustle, then they probably don't want to get involved in the hassle until things are more clear and things are more understandable. But people who have a really high stake in Europe, they obviously are more keen to understand it and see how things will roll out for them. Because as Mark said, you know, that's a really big market that, you know, one should not be deprived of. So definitely, it also depends, as I mentioned, that where you are at your business stage. And for clients with a large stake in Europe, they're definitely more keen to get this result as soon as possible and still get that market share that they were initially getting, and let Brexit not affect them.
And there are a few things for them to work out, right? So what's the one thing that you see most commonly for people not selling in Europe? What's the main issue that they refer to?
It's VAT, import VAT, the cost that includes. So I think being an accountant, I look at it through the perspective of finances and the numbers basically. And with majority of my clients, if we continue to trade in EU, what will it look like on my P&L, my profit and loss sheet? What will my balance sheet look like? If I'm sending my inventories to Europe, what will that do to my monthly growth? And so it's mainly the majority of the clients who are coming to me is always talking about what does this all mean to me at the end of the month, and how much will I be able to take out of the business for my personal pocket? And that obviously involves, you know, the custom charges and import VAT, and all the other taxes in the Europe side. So, you know, with an advice like, if you pay import VAT to send your goods, you can claim that back. If you charge your clients, you know, if you're VAT registered in business there, that gives them a bit of relaxation. But again, there's, you know, fulfillment charges, then extra delivery charges, which they now need to put consideration on before sending the goods to EU. So I think from my perspective, it's all about the numbers. And if the numbers are still favorable, then they say, okay, let's continue. And if it's not, then there's a pause and at the moment to see how things will go going forward.
Cool. And Christoph, anything to add on that point?
From my perspective, I only would add that launching a FBA before you are registered in all the countries that you would like to hold your stock might be a challenge, because there are obviously some transactions, like the goods movements, that are happening without any involvement of yours, and then it's just outside of your decision. They have to be reported, but you don't have the numbers. So the advice that I can get, if you're going with FBA, which is a simple solution, just make sure that you untick the countries that you don't have the registration, because you can do that. You can say the biggest and the longest process of registration, and the most famous, I guess, is Spain, where with all the documentation that you have to gather up front, with all the notary apostilles on the documentation, and a physical meeting that is required for the registration. You have to physically meet with the tax officer, which was a big issue in the COVID time. that makes the whole process a very long one. So definitely antique Spain, right? Just wait when the number is there, and then you can hold the stock in that country. That's what I can say from my experience.
Cool. So to make this conversation a little bit brighter and to not focus simply on the problems that are happening at the moment and the solutions to the problems, it'd be good to focus on the actual growth of clients and where the opportunities are to help them expand and to help their business to strive, basically, and moving forward into 2021. There are some issues for UK sellers specifically in Europe, but obviously that comes with the opportunity of the rise of e-commerce more generally. So Mark, you touched on a couple of points before on that in terms of marketplaces. Yeah, if you've got any key growth areas that you see clients having, then yeah.
Sure. I mean, our advice is always, a seller comes to us initially, let's say they're selling on Amazon and on eBay, and then because we're fully integrated to the likes of Etsy and OnBuy, and there's like, okay, these are new marketplaces, we plug into those guys, and all of a sudden the product's on another marketplace and they go on Etsy and not on the high street. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is quite good actually, and it's not costing me a lot. The integrations are free, and I pay the commissions to the marketplaces, and my sales have doubled. And naturally, the next step has got to be the EU and international. So we're fully integrated with Frugo, for example, which is a global marketplace, which a lot of our clients, excuse me, have never heard of. So all of a sudden they plug into a global marketplace, and all of a sudden pencil sets are big in India and English honey's big in China, and etc. And all these products that we don't know what's big in various countries, but the clients start finding out. And it's a real mishmash. It's like, blimey, I never thought, the honey sets would be so big in China or Japan, but they are apparently, and so there's all these little niches, which, at very low cost, if you find the right partner, can open new doors. And there's just additional revenue, additional marketplaces, and there's many of them. And we're looking at new countries, and Christoph mentioned Spain. Spain's on our radar after Holland for the reasons that you described in terms of setting up and selling product there. And it's also, it's the second fastest growing marketplace in the EU, so it's another obvious reason to be there. So when you go to these countries and you discover new marketplaces, and I've been in this industry for 15 plus years, it always surprises me. It's like, I don't think I've ever heard of this one before. And it's a brand new marketplace that it's uncovered. And it's like, wow, it's huge. And they've got all these sellers. And it just amazes me that you just go through these countries, there's more and more. So a real savvy, e-com seller should be looking at all those countries, all those marketplaces. Which ones can I plug into? Which ones are going to be cost effective for me? Which ones are more suited for my products? And, it takes a bit of research, but it's well worth that time spent invested in to do some research. So my advice would always be is just don't think of, if you're a UK seller, just the UK marketplaces. Get into Europe, get into global, and plug into these marketplaces, because there's big revenues there, and it's all still growing. COVID's the impact of growth, the increase of e-com sales. It's only going to get bigger. As we know, the high street's going to have tumbleweed blowing down it very shortly, which means that e-com is just going to be even bigger. And there's a whole new generation of e-com buyers, the over 55s who've discovered how to order something online during COVID, who would never go back down to the high street to order that product. I gave the story last week of my own mother, who's never shops online. She's 80, bless her, and she bought some hair dye. I had to explain to her how to go and buy this hair dye, this hair color, whatever, online. It took me a few hours, but click, and we went through the process, and she ordered it. And the next day she phoned me. She never guessed what this parcel came today. Had my hair color in it. It's amazing. This is great. This is revolutionary. She'd never done that before. So, and she tells me now that she will never, ever go into town again to buy a hair color when she can press 3 clicks and have it delivered next day. So there's a whole new generation of people that have discovered online, which that's not going to go away, So the marketplace is huge potential. And I think, international markets is where the savvy seller should be looking, definitely.
Yeah, and I would echo that. On the Payoneer side, we obviously handle the payment flow, but a lot of the work we focus is on pushing people into these new markets in the way that you've described. We've partnered with pretty much every marketplace around the world, and we offer financing solutions to help boost customers into those areas and give them the capital to invest in stock, whatever it might be, off the back of that. So yeah, I think I can certainly vouch for what you're saying, and there's a lot of work we do, but I'll be sharing that as well in the emails and date and touch force after. But yeah, some really interesting stuff, and I think that pushing that growth is important. Saret, what's e-commerce got to look forward to over the next year? What are the big growth opportunities?
First of all, I wholeheartedly agree with Mark. I think that one of the two main trends, which is also backed up by data, is that one thing that is happening is that domestic shoppers now tend to shop cross borders, which opens up a lot of new opportunities and a lot of markets. But exactly that second point, that a lot of new demographics have opened up because of the necessity. And this is not so it's all of the different demographics who didn't used to shop online for a variety of reasons, but now they do. So it's not only finding the new markets, but also the demographics. I find extremely big opportunities here. But thirdly, I think that supply chain synergies, which is probably something else that Mark has been seeing, because if we're looking at the different trends, then we see a lot of trends towards sustainability, not only ecologically and environmentally, but also how do we build up like the perfect supply chains, so to speak. So probably we're going to see a lot of development in last mile as well, which is something that is very innovative right now within the EU, but obviously needs a lot of development. And then we can start working on supply chains that can really bring on leaps and leaps of growth, because right now it has been quite organic. And as the last point, what I find to be a great opportunity is quite simply put, empowerment. Because right now, when the cross-border thing is getting more popular and getting more normalized, people no longer look at geographical borders for where to shop. I mean, they shop based on their beliefs, their values, their needs, whether the product fits, whether the brand fits. You have to be it's a very competitive market right now within e-commerce. So it depends a lot on what the message is that you're trying to say. So I think that this can also allow us to do well by do good. So to empower all of those other regions that maybe haven't gotten so much attention, to empower small, like arts and crafts, as Mark pointed out, which now it gets more normalized as something that we can purchase online, because now it's normal. It's not something that we do just out of fun. So I think there's a lot of growth opportunities within the e-commerce sector right now.
Interesting. And Timur, where have you actually been able to look at the finances of the sellers themselves? What excites you? Where do you see opportunity in the numbers for these sellers?
Definitely. I have some great examples of my own clients. I've seen, so last year, COVID hit us. Majority of the people were either furloughed or, they had to stay at home, and they started this side hustle just until they get the next job, as an example. And I've seen that client of mine, and actually got a few of them, like they've literally made this their full-time thing now, and they're earning a lot more that they could have earned while they were working as an employee. So definitely there's a great growth margin there. Now Mark and Saret spoke about this through the prospect of new customers coming in, people who have never been online, now they're coming online because of the whole situation. But what this also is doing is that people who have never thought of selling online are now coming online and trying to sell as well, and becoming more. So this market is going to get more competitive if it's not already there, and there are going to be a lot more individuals and companies trying to sell online and become that e-commerce experts in their niche. Which will mean that you should be opening yourself into different markets as well, and not only UK. Because if your competitor does that first, they go to Europe first after dealing with all the Brexit stuff, they have an edge over you, and they have a bigger market. So definitely you need to be more diverse in terms of your markets, and with the numbers that I've seen, you need to get more involved in the e-commerce side of things. Lastly, as I said, with recent increase in the e-commerce side of things, this will be the new way forward. And I've seen the numbers myself. It's not just that you're selling the end money, the profit money that's coming into your pocket. It's a lot more worth than you could have earned in that specific period of time while working somewhere. So definitely e-commerce and online selling is what is new now, and will be going ahead with actual figures and numbers.
Cool. And we've spoken a bit with Saret and Mark about the end consumer being older, potentially, and having the doors open to e-commerce. On the seller side, what do you see in that regard? So who are the people that are coming on board? Are they a complete mix, or back in the day, there would have been the younger crowd, you would assume. So what does it look like now?
Again, the younger crowd is still, teenagers and people in their schools or in university who are looking for the side hustle. They're definitely still on board with this, but a lot of other people's, like even well-established businesses, are coming into this whole, Shopify side of things, Etsy, and they're also obviously tapping into Amazon to use that marketplace. So it's getting a lot diverse now. It's getting a lot more competitive. People who have been home. And they just think they can tap into so many suppliers available out there, and with the ease of all this whole network that has been created, everyone is now jumping on it. And I believe that if someone hasn't done it, they have tried it. So it's going to be a situation where almost everyone might have tried it, and someone will succeed and continued it, where others still working on it.
Cool. And it's interesting talking about people entering the market. But there's a lot of work, people exiting the market, with aggregators becoming a huge thing in 2021 and the like. So it poses the question, what is the future of online commerce in general? Will it be something like the offline space where there are a few massive players that dominate every high street, or will it keep its independence intact in terms of the smaller sellers? What do you think the future for online selling is in the short, medium, and long term potentially?
I believe that it will be really diverse. So it won't be same as how it was in the high street, where you have one of the biggest shop in the mall, and that's it. You are the main focused company. But this will be a lot more diverse because there's so many options for everyone. No one company or party is dominating one side of things. But things like Amazon, obviously, that they dominate the whole marketplace situation. But there are some people who are doing so well off Amazon and on the Shopify stores. So it's going to be a really diverse and competitive arena, to be honest. It's not going to be dominated by one or few individuals.
And Christoph, where do you see the future of e-commerce going?
Well, I would agree with Taimur, maybe because the trend that I see also between our clients is to expand new options, like also Mark mentioned, going global, but also going inside Europe to attack the local e-commerce platforms, which are significantly they bring significant turnover in general in some countries, like we have Cdiscount in France or Allegro in Poland, which are big marketplaces. Poland recently was launched as a marketplace for Amazon. Before the Amazon kicked in, Allegro took all the stakes. They dominated the market. A huge opportunity to expand inside the Europe as well in those areas. And I would agree with what Taimur says, that people are more and more like shopping everywhere. It's not like I will buy it only on Amazon or on eBay. I go there and I look for a better offer or something that's more interesting for me. So definitely being everywhere that you should be is the best strategy. So address, like Mark also mentioned, what is the niche for my product? Where should I be? Where is my product something interesting for the final customer? So that's some work that should be done by each of the e-commerce sellers to really identify possibility of growth. So,
yeah. And Mark, where do you see the future going?
The future's bright. It's infinity and beyond. It's it's I think the high street will, as I mentioned previously, what you'll see is showrooms. So there's certain products and certain retailers that will have showrooms in the high street. So let's think about it. You can order a sofa online, but a lot of people like to sit on it first before they actually order it, just to jump up and down and say, actually, this is a comfy one, I'll get this one, and then go home and order it online. So I think there'll be more of those showrooms, and there'll be return centres as well, take product back, etc., and do your exchanges. But I think in terms of growth in the future, it's got to be international, it's got to be global. If you think that the bricks and mortars model now, if you think that you've got let's say you've got a niche shop, you've got a little shop in Bristol somewhere and you're selling whatever it may be, and it's quite niche, and someone says to you, would you like to open a shop in Paris? And you say, well, I can't afford to open a shop in Paris, but I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll give you a shop in Paris and Munich and Berlin and all these cities all across Europe, but you'll only pay when you sell a product. There'll be no other costs. Well, you just do it, wouldn't you? You just say, absolutely, put my product in these shops. Well, that's the online model, you know, that's you being savvy and connecting to these marketplaces, and you only pay commission when you sell a product. So I think the future's very bright, it's very strong, but I think the real savvy sellers will be wanting to look at the international marketplaces.
Cool. And Suret, what's your opinion?
I think that one of the long-term e-commerce development schemes is actually looking into the logistics part and the supply chain part, which is today, you know, it's dynamic, yes, but it hasn't really had like a big transformation recently. And one thing that is starting to trend, specifically from the idea of sustainability, is how do we model the logistics behind e-commerce, especially when it's blowing up as it is right now. So a lot of people do shop in different places, as Timur pointed out. We have a lot of packages coming from different sellers. And right now, when we think about these omni-channel providers or like big providers, then they do try to like create new logics and new models behind how does actually what you buy get to you. But I believe, and I see that a lot, that supply chain synergy building is something that is really going to come into attention in a couple of years. So how do we make sure that when you buy your honey from Pitcairn Island, your sugarcane syrup from a shop in Paris, and your clothes maybe from Albania, how does it all reach you in the best and the most efficient way? So I think that right now everybody is focusing on the front end and kind of trying to meet the demand. But I think that we will see a real trend of going deeper and to start to remodel everything. I really liked actually what Mark said, because a lot of the retail in our minds right now is following the age-old classical business models of how do we sell, how do we do retail, and we still consider them as shops. But is that really the right way to consider them? Perhaps we should look at the model holistically and try to rebuild some of those pillars in order to build better e-commerce.
Interesting. So yeah, I think that rounds off the discussion very nicely on the panel side. I think from what all of you guys have said, the overriding consensus is that internationalization and growth and pursuing the opportunity that e-commerce is presenting at the moment is key. And it seems as though there's also a consensus that e-commerce is here to stay and it isn't going to go anywhere. And in fact, it's going to be the offline space that's going to be having to remodel to cater around e-commerce, like the showrooms that Mark and Suret mentioned. So it's really interesting takes on the situation. And I think that this group in particular and the services that are provided really do help sellers to go through that process of being comfortable, going through the hassle of having to get your tax in place, having to get your logistics in place. And when you're working with partners like all of you guys and Payoneer ourselves, because this is what we help with as well, who know what they're doing and who are experts in their space and can be trusted, then there really isn't the excuse to not pursue these opportunities because everything is in place for you. I think for me, that would be the take home from this conversation. There's obviously a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty in the space at the moment, but the opportunity, it comes as the opportunity is massive and it's the biggest it's ever been. So from this conversation, I'd say to dispel the fear and for people to reach out to people like ourselves or other experts in the field who can guide them through what they're experiencing and the fears that they do have in order to maximize the opportunity that is present, whether that will be helping them to expand geographically, whether that be helping solve pain points, whether that will be helping with the payments, helping with financing of this. As a collective, and this is only a small sector of the industry. There are experts out there that can help. So that would be my takeaway. Has anyone got anything to add to the conversation before we move on to Q&As?
Only to second what you're saying, Dan. Yeah, I think absolutely finding the right parker, Christoph, and finding the right broker, finding the right tax advisor are all key elements. As I said earlier, that it takes time, it takes a bit of research, but it's well invested. It's a good investment to spend that time finding the right people, the right partners, because they will assist you to grow your business. Definitely.
Perfect. Anyone else before we move on?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I think we've covered most of it, and as Mark said, you need to find someone who grows with you rather than just charge you for the service. So definitely, and these are the partners that you should be looking for.
Cool. So we've got a question here, and I'd welcome all other questions from anyone in attendance. No questions too big or too small, so please feel free to reach out. Someone's asked a question: as someone launching a new brand, my instinct is to focus on the UK market and UK suppliers since it's UK based. But after hearing input from the panelists, do you think I should set my ambitions towards moving into other markets eventually too? And to what extent does it help having that outlook from the get-go? The brand is focused on dog care, so it's certainly a worldwide market. Mark, do you want to kick off with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a great example there that, some research at this stage, even better, before it's launched, is to say, so which country in Europe is the biggest dog lovers? I don't know. I think it's the UK, but it might, what's second and third? I don't know the answers, but a bit of research into those countries, find that information. Secondly, then, so who's the biggest marketplace in those countries? Let's say that it's France that are the second biggest dog lovers in Europe. I think the UK is first. I'm not 100% sure. There's a lot of dogs in the UK, but let's say France is the second biggest dog lovers. So what's the biggest marketplace in France, and find that out, etc. And just keep going down that list, build up that information, and then if it was myself, attack those marketplaces, plug into those marketplaces, find the right partner where the integrations are free and you're not paying thousands of pounds to do the integration, plug them in, and your product there is in multiple marketplaces from the get-go. And
Suret, being based outside of the UK yourself, what would your opinion be for someone in the UK asking about potentially expanding outside of the UK market? What light can you shed on that?
I highly recommend it. But I specifically recommend taking it into account yes, from the start of your plan. It makes a lot of sense because, first of all, if you have it constantly in your mind, then you can already communicate with your partners. You can already start to build up the expertise. You're going to learn a lot of lessons somewhere where it's comfortable, and then you can take these lessons and go somewhere where you can actually do business. I would like to expand on something that Mark said. It is not only finding out who the biggest dog lovers is, but it's also about finding out where the vacuum is. Because people who are very much in those niche markets or niche needs, they tend to use e-commerce right now as well, but with a heavy heart, because you really have to, you have to order something from the United States. It's very, very expensive. It's very, very complicated. You have to go through customs, do all kinds of things. So if you can just also address these vacuums in the market, then it helps you a lot. And obviously, if you do it somewhere in your domestic market to start with, then this means that you are basically doing your product development in the start. And then when you already have those references, you already have those trust anchors, it is rather simple to actually go to these markets who are ready for you. They're waiting for you. I'm sure that a lot of people here in Estonia would love to buy those products as well. But in order to do that, I think that the market research and the real branding and this boldness has to be about that. Because as I said before, there is no longer the habit of following geographical borders. I think that tribalism is the new way to go. So people are looking for like-minded fellows, like-minded businesses. They're going to base things on their values rather than geographical positions. So definitely go for it and start from the very beginning to plan for it as well. Yeah.
Perfect. And Timur, again, you have quite a hands-on experience with sellers. How can a seller become more geographically focused outside of the UK and take advantage of the international side of things?
I'm sure, but just to let you know, Mark, I just did a quick Google, and France is the most loved dog living country.
Ah, that's good. That was a good guess. I thought it might be France. All the poodles, to know all those poodles that they love in France. You see.
Fair enough. No, in terms of growth and internationally, I think when we talk through numbers, the first thing, as Mark and Sir said, you need to do the market research before you tap into that market and see what your offering is actually in demand in there. But once, let's say, you have done all of that part, and now you are ready that this is something that you would introduce and can be something of a big hit, you need to work on the numbers side of things as well. Because initially you have to remember, whenever you're introducing a new product or whenever you're introducing a new market to yourself, there is an initial cost involved, and that cost could go through marketing your product yourselves, or getting actually the inventory up to that stage could be costful. So there would be a cash surplus that you would have to spend. So budgeting for it, and trying to understand those numbers and see how long can you continue before you starting getting the return in that market. Sometimes it could take a few months, sometimes it could even take a year, or sometimes it could literally start. And the beauty of e-commerce is it could sometimes start from day one, that you can start and getting those sales in. So you need to budget yourself, see how long it will take for you to survive without having that market that you market share that you thought you could survive. So budgeting is important, getting yourself known in the numbers is important. But once you get all of that in place, trust me, you just need to go with the flow and get your product selling. And if you're not doing that, someone else would be doing that and will be taking your part of the market share. So do your market research, do the finances, and just get into it. Don't be scared, and tap onto that market. As I said, otherwise someone else is doing it and you're losing out on it.
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, I'm aware that we are running out of time in a way. 3 minutes left to go. If there are any other questions, then feel free to post them. But if not, then we will wrap up. So yeah, I think the take homes from the conversation, again, it sounds as though it's been hugely focused on globalization and not letting the situations at hand mean that you're moving away from internationalization. As I said, we all focus to some degree on this end goal and on expanding e-commerce in general. That's at the root of what all we do, and that's at the root of why we're here as people and as employees of the various companies that we're employed by. We see a future in e-commerce, and so do you as attendees and listeners out there as well. The thing I would stress is to have the relevant partners in place, and to echo what everyone has said. If you have any questions, any doubts, if you need to find out more, then if it's not within this group, then please find it elsewhere. However, this group is a very good source of knowledge. We're all market leaders in our own space, and I've tried to make it as diverse as possible to answer this question in the most succinct way that there is. But to answer the question, e-commerce in the challenging landscape of 2021, from the 45% increase of e-commerce over the last year, we could expect that to go even further. And when you're looking at how you're going to do that, I think it's important to go global and to think big and to have the right partners in place and to be fearless. But obviously, to be fearless, you need to have a knowledge and understanding of the markets itself. So what I would say is we'll be sharing contact information with the relevant participants. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions over the points raised, and we'll be more than happy to help. That goes to email, LinkedIn, etc. It's also worth mentioning that we've got a really interesting series coming up, and this is just the first episode of it, tackling themes like this that are relevant to key sellers. We'll be taking into account points of view from really strong sellers and other players in the market to give a really good overview of the e-commerce space. So do keep an eye on that. It'll be called the e-Sellers Exchange, and it will be shared in future emails. That's it from us. So I hope that was thoroughly enjoyable. And yeah, if anyone's got anything more to say, then feel free to say it now. But if not, then I wish everyone a really good goodbye. I'm sure we'll all be seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.